So, Mac, 3 potential trade candidates for the Browns. This from ClutchPoints.com. Number 1, defensive lineman from the Lions, Michael Brockers. What do you think?
Michael Brockers is somebody who's interesting. I think that he was brought into Detroit. Obviously, the GM, Brad Holmes, he was director of player personnel with the Rams previously before he got hired this offseason. But, Michael Brockers, I think, is somebody who's interesting. I think he's a good run stopper, and, he can be a little bit more of that veteran presence that you need in that defensive line room. But at the same time, the contract-wise, he's up around $7.5 million. I'm not sure if that's going to be, worth it in the Browns' case at that point. At least when you have guys like Myles Garrett and you have Jadeveon Clowney as well, with the higher price tags. I just don't think that that's going to necessarily be worth it at that point. Maybe if they get cut, I could see that, but I just don't think that Brockers is somebody who is all that interesting to me at that point. And I think he's going to be somebody who's going to be kept around Detroit for a little while as well.
So the next one, Javon Hargrave, defensive tackle from the Eagles.
Yeah, so Javon Hargrave, I actually liked him when he was coming out in the 2016 draft as well. Originally taken by Pittsburgh, I want to believe in the 4th round, if I remember right. He's more that nose tackle. It's somebody who can kind of be that penetrating one technique over the center. So, I look at Hargrave. I think he's somebody who's very interesting. Again, I like him. He's a little bit more of a younger guy. I want to say around 26, 27. But I look at Hargrave and looking into his contract situation. He signed a last offseason, and they ended up restructuring him so that they can save a little bit of money. And the Eagles are in cap hell. So the problem is that, again, when you kick those cap situations down the road, Hargrave, he's somebody who is going to end up making about $16 million for a cap hit next year just because of the maneuvering that they had to do financially. So if I'm the Browns, again, that's a situation where, and I hate to be a broken record, but if he's cut, I'd love to bring him in. But when it comes to a trade, I really don't think that, I'd be all that interested in bringing him in at that point.
Yeah, I think they have enough candidates on the defensive line that I don't know that they would look at either of those two unless somebody gets injured. Multiple guys would probably have to get injured. The third one is Adrian Phillips, safety from the Patriots.
Now, this one I would be on board for because last year we saw them bring in, a couple veterans into that safety room at that point. And, Andrew Sendejo, obviously, I understand that the fans didn't really like him last year. He didn't play well, but to be quite honest, he wasn't meant to be your starter. He was meant to be that 4th safety for you at that point. So I look at Adrian Phillips. He's been in the league for 7 years now, or this will be his 7th year. He spent his first 5 years in LA and San Diego with the Chargers. And then this past year in New England, obviously he's put out a couple of videos of him working out and, training for this season for a bigger role. And he's somebody who played a little bit more of that strong safety role and had a couple of interceptions last year in New England, 109 tackles. But I look at him in this safety room potentially, and I think he's a good fit because you have Richard LeCount, who they took in round 5. You have Sheldrick Redwine, who I think is interesting, but to be quite honest, I just don't think that he makes the roster. At that point, it comes down to your 3 starters that I look at mainly. You have Ronnie Harrison, who played well last year, but again, he was, in and out of the lineup a couple of games last year. And then I also look at, Don Johnson. He was brought in free agency. He's 25. He's more the leader for you, and he's going to be that starter. But at the same time, too, I do want to see what he's able to do in that starting lineup. And then the big question comes from Grant Delpit. Delpit last year was a rookie, didn't play the entire year. So you're really looking at this year as that rookie season for Grant Delpit, and he's coming off an injury. So I'm not quite sure what to expect out of Delpit. So I'd like to have, maybe one more veteran in that safety room all of a sudden to be able to kind of give a little bit more of that insurance that you need. Because I think that Phillips is somebody who has the experience. He's played, that backup role. He's played a starter. He's been more of in the box type of a player. So I think that he can be somebody who would be a solid veteran, and he comes for cheap. He's only making about $2 million, possibly $3 million this year in New England. So he's on the relative cheap side. So I would love to bring him in as a solid veteran depth option for this for the secondary.